When you have that belief, it perfectly, if a certain person really felt that way, and all these poor tenants are out there, man, they're just getting slaughtered by all these landlords, and there's hundreds and hundreds of people that are existing in these untenable conditions. We got vacant houses. Let's go in there and fix it up, because the landlords obviously aren't doing it.
Welcome back to our little talk show, Talking Racine. We appreciate you being here. Don't we, George?
Really do.
Mr. George Myers. Right, Jim?
Ditto.
All right. Jim Spodek, producer of this show. I'm Dr. Ken Jorgen, the pretty face of the group. Well, I'm the host, so I get to say that. We're going to talk about the Community Development Authority, which is evolving in the city of Racine. It's replacing the Redevelopment Authority and the Housing Authority. So it's taking on the roles of those two prior entities, and we're taking a look at it, and we're wondering, well, are they going to be restricted to just those things? Are they going to try and expand their power? Who is going to have the power? Who's going to be sitting on this committee? What's their experience? So on and so forth. Because, after all, they're being placed in charge of a significant amount of money and a significant amount of property in the city of Racine. And we'd like to, be confident that all this is in good hands. So, right now, who have we got on the Community Development Authority? We have a list of 7 people here. Right at the top, Andrea Bukacek. I would assume somehow related to Bukacek Construction,
Apparently.
Though I don't know that. Mr. Corey Mason, the mayor, who appointed this committee, including himself. We have Jeffrey Thomas, who, either are you familiar with Jeffrey Thomas?
No.
Jen Adamski, who at one time ran for public office in the 6th.
She was on the RDA board.
Yeah, she's the only holdover, in fact,
Right.
coming from the RDA over to the CDA. Mary Pusey, again, we don't know. Trevor Young, who is a new alderman, a new member of the city council, and he's been appointed to be one of the council members. And William Martin, who we know is... Do you recall the exact relationship that there's kind of a confusing
Right.
The RDA, the RCEDC,
right.
and, yeah,
Funds money to the RCEDC in a county. The county then hires William Martin. So basically, he's working for the entity that pays his salary. And apparently he's like on a special assignment in Racine for special projects and development. And
Does he work in the mayor's office?
He's not just working, he's working for it, but he's also one of the board members.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is kind of a, is there a conflict there? Yeah, I'd say so. But in Racine, like, what's a conflict?
Yeah, well, we've got Matt Sadowski, who's the interim executive director.
Right.
And Matt's position with the city thus far has been, anybody? You guys are more familiar with him than
he
I
was
am.
assistant
I hear his
under
name a
Amy
lot, but-
Connolly. Yeah, good guy.
Yeah.
My personal opinion is he's keeping his head down to retirement.
Probably a wise move.
A wise move in this
Yeah.
city, yeah.
So we've got these 7 people. One of the interesting things was the qualifications to be on this board. One of the things you had to have was a sufficient familiarity and experience with 66.1335 Housing and Community Development Authorities. This is from the state statutes. And several pages here, about all of the things that the board or the authority is empowered to do. And I'm wondering who of these 7 has got sufficient familiarity with this. I wonder if any of them have actually read it.
Well, it's urban renewal, community development, and housing. So how many of them really have extensive ability and experience in that area is really fairly questionable.
I would be surprised if Trevor Young does. I mean, Trevor's a young guy. He's new on the city council, and he's one of who are supposed to be 2 members of the city council to sit on this board. Now, he's the only member of the city council. Corey Mason appointed himself, but he's really not a member of the city council. He's the mayor. So,
Yeah,
I
de
mean,
facto, yeah. But here's where I'm going. I think what this is a control, it's a power grab, again, because you've incorporated the RDA, the Redevelopment Authority, and the Housing Authority, and combined it all into the Community Development Authority. So what you have is a redevelopment authority on steroids. And one of the areas that was kind of a concern to me was they can acquire, lease, operate housing projects approved by the council to provide for construction, reconstruction, improvement, alteration, repair of any housing project or any part of a housing project. So basically, the city of Racine can go into a housing project and actually run a housing project if they desire to do so. They can bond for that housing, bond for it. And just to get a little groundwork,
and by bonding,
is going to be is
who's on the hook for any bonds?
Well, the city of Racine is a taxpayer, ultimately,
taxpayers.
Yeah. But one of the things I just want to point out before we get into it a little deeper is, I don't think that one of the unique things in Racine is that they collect the intergovernmental fund, that water money. So that money comes into, somehow it's been diverted to the RDA, and that's a couple $1 million a year, give or take. But that money is very unusual for a housing authority, or in this particular a community development authority, to get that kind of money. It usually has to go to the common council. The common council allocates dollars to it. Not in Racine. That money is then funneled to it. Now, I think directly. And so now they got this chunk of dough, and it's a private corporation that is run by people picked by the mayor. So it's really. And now it expanded its powers.
But Jim, relax.
Okay.
That $1.9 million or thereabouts, they've already spent it right to the end of the contract. They've committed that money, so there is no more money left in the IG fund. And yet it seems like it's been that way for quite some time. Like they keep spending that money faster than it comes in, and yet whenever they come up with a project, Q.A. Shakur, who's the director of the finance committee, will say, "And money is available." It's like magic,
Well, they keep spending the same money over and over again, and because it's being spent in the future, it looks like it's still there, or it's still coming down the road, and they forgot they've already obligated that money. And I think most of us are familiar with a housing authority, at least I am, with regard to the Racine County Housing Authority. And that is where they subsidize housing. People apply to get it, and every once in a while, see it comes up in the paper. They've opened up the rolls again. People want to apply for housing, do that, and they'll get 5,000 applicants in a day. People want to get on authority, but it's centered around housing. That's the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
The Redevelopment Authority, as we've known it, has centered more around projects.
Right.
All right, and we have this 3-column sheet here. So the middle one is the
projects
RDA.
like Machinery Road.
Machinery Road.
I mean, disaster after disaster after disaster.
Right, and we have the Housing Authority, which seems to be dealt more with housing rather than projects. Well, the new thing that the Community Development Authority, which is the left-hand column over here, seems to take over the other two, which means basically it's taken the Redevelopment Authority that we have and adding to it housing.
Correct.
Right.
And that's where we come up, well, why do they want to do that? Well, there can be only one reason, and that is they're going to have to build houses. They're going to make housing. And, of course, now where's the money coming from? And I kind of agree with you, Doc. I think the thing is that they've spent that million right down to 2035 or something on this new project, the down by the lake in TID 24.
Right.
The conference center. So it's like, what are they going to do? Now, they're not going to have money out of the $80 million budget or the $50 million tax levy. That's not going to be there. That's already, they already have what do they call it, a structural deficit?
Yeah, right. The structural
deficit. So that's all spent. The money coming in off the water deal, what called the intergovernmental fund, That's spent. They had $9 million in it about 3-4 years ago.
Well,
Remember when they went to
little
Machinery Row?
Yeah, it was before Machinery Row. They had actual real money.
Yeah, they had money in there, big thing, and then the Machinery Row came up and sucked it all out plus some. It's like,
Well, it says here the RDA may borrow money and issue bonds.
That's the scary part.
Yeah, I mean, they could just go out there. Now here it is. I'm going to borrow money and I'm going to put you on the hook for it, George. So I'm going to go out here and borrow money, and George is going to pay it back if I screw up. That's what you got.
well, now there is a provision. Now this the guys know the way the RDA is set up as a separate entity with a separate EIN number from the city. All right, and it's specifically designated that in law so that the city doesn't become liable for what the RDA screws up. All right.
Okay.
So now it's a question of if the investors want to invest it, and from what I see, is that the RDA may get into trouble. It's already in debt now with the demolition that went on over with the Machinery Row. And so how are they going to pay this off? Well, they can bond for it, but I don't think the city is responsible for those bonds.
Oh, I don't know, George, because I think they can spear through that RDA and go right to the city because there's a crossover with dollars. As soon as a corporation starts to merge with another corporation, both of them are on the hook. And if you want to look at it that way, that's how it is, really.
Well, you're seeing a little of that too, Jim, just
Right.
what you're talking about when it comes to these relocation costs for Machinery Row, because if
Correct.
that's an RDA project, why is the city worrying about covering the cost of
Exactly.
these relocation costs? It should just be the RDA. They're the ones that screwed it up. They're an independent. It's like Johnson's Wax or something made the deal. You know,
Right,
That's a
exactly. It should have
separate
nothing to do with it, but why do they
But
cross
yeah,
over?
yeah.
But yet, so when they make this argument that the RDA stands alone and is only liable for what they do, I don't believe it, and it hasn't been tested in the courts, but I can guarantee you it will be if there's a problem.
What about this adopt tax incremental district project plans and submission to Common Council for approval?
Well, tax,
So could they be involved in creating TIDs then?
Yeah, exactly. So I go to the Common Council to create TID 18, which was Machinery Row, but whoa, our hands are off of that in case it goes bad. Well, yeah, okay.
It's very interesting that is one of their newfound powers, whereas we've had TIDs for 20 years now
Right.
without any Community Development Authority in existence. So there's something going on there too.
Well, here's where I think they're going with this. Now, during the campaign, Corey Mason talks about making everybody the middle class. Okay, well, how are you going to do that? No one's been able to succeed at that. But if it's housing, that is one of the things he's talked about.
Yeah.
I think this housing authority, by taking that, there's going to be, and then we targeted certain areas. We blighted this area and this area, and then we're going to go into landlords and income property or whatever you want to call it. We're going to target this area. So they're going to come in, extract funds, possibly create, maybe take it. I mean, they have the right for eminent domain. They have delinquent taxes. They can come in. I mean, there's a lot of different areas where they can come in and basically grab and absorb that property. And then we're going to take tax dollars and create a housing project. Milwaukee's done it, and some of these larger cities have done it. I mean, most of the time they turn out badly.
Chicago and
Right.
Cabrini Green was one of the most notorious places
Correct.
that done it. And after having
Years
and years of problems at
have done
Cabrini
it.
Green, they finally said, call up landlords, hey, would you guys get back over here and take this stuff back over? We're not doing a very good job of it.
Housing authorities have done projects, and a matter of fact, I think there was one, even at one time, the housing authority was going to do a project in Racine. It never developed. But, I mean, this is where I think
With
we're
St.
headed.
Louis, I saw an aerial vision. They were way back, and you see these beautiful buildings down there, and then they come in with that helicopter, and there's not a window left in them. They look like a blown out.
Well, it comes
war
down to
zone,
very
for God's sake.
expensive.
Several of
Bad.
these public housing projects have been torn down because they've been so unsuccessful.
Brand new
Such-
buildings,
such
20-year-old
terrible
buildings
failure.
are tearing down.
Well, it's mismanagement. You know that, George, as well as I do. That if you manage it correctly, you can survive the ups and downs of the market. But if you're just pour money in, eventually it deteriorates and there's no management, and you end up with a problem, and it's going to be the taxpayer's problem. This big government type of mentality is really the worrisome part when I look at all the powers that.
Well, and that's the basic
has.
problem. It's that big government mentality that the government's somehow going to take care of it. I don't think when Sandy Knapp established Racine many centuries ago that his idea is, well, I'm going to get in here and I'm going to make a Racine and I'm going to make sure that everything gets built right. It's kind of set up as an organization to help establish property rights and keep an area kind of secure so the business can conduct and people can conduct their lives and get along relatively peacefully without having somebody walk in and just take things over from the outside someplace. It's kind of like a business gets established.
So, I mean, I understand where the mentality comes from. Hey, we got old housing stock. We've got, the high unemployment rate. We got to do something about it. I just don't see this as the way to go. I just don't see money from a community that is overtaxed, is economically depressed, that we're going to just push more. We're going to take more and just do more with that. I just don't see that working. There's other ways you could do it.
Now, when you say it's overtaxed, Jim, I think you're hitting on it right there.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's overtaxed. We need to get taxes back down to where they belong.
If you flipped can, let's say, George, you went completely opposite and said, hey, you know what, we're going to cut taxes by 20%. We're going to do an economic zone that's going to say, hey, you got almost a free will here with no conditional use permits. Come in with your plan. Let's see what you got.
I think you would accomplish much plus some over this plan with the three columns, because all of a sudden people would have money and they'd be able to do things they couldn't do before, and they'd have the freedom to do it.
Maybe one of you guys know. I don't. We got this list of CDA-owned properties, which is formerly RDA-owned properties, and there's a fairly lengthy list of all this real property in the city of Racine that now belongs to the CDA, except for, let's see, there's a couple here. 1811 Phillips Avenue was sold to Crown Castle, and 1520 Clark and 1536 Clark were sold to Cardinal Capital. Did we have how much money?
Those were
sold for?
Well, I think actually that land was almost, for Cardinal Capital, I think there was darn near almost a giveaway, which is fine because those were buildings that needed to be some. We looked at those years back, and probably
pretty
okay.
Rough.
Yeah, they were rough, and it was probably a good enough deal. You got somebody in there doing something. That's good. I mean, that to me is a win. Of course,
I agree, but they should put a figure down. I mean, otherwise, when they say sold,
okay, let's
we got some money coming in.
Let's go to that. When I looked at that property list, I thought, okay, well, there's RDA has lent money out, and now that RDA property now has been transferred to the CDA, Community Development Authority, but there's money lent. I know for one, Wild Root.
Exactly, and I don't see that on here. That was to have been repoed, basically.
Right.
If it didn't get financing and get signs of up and running by the end of December of last year.
Right.
Now we're what is this?
March.
This is March. We're in the third month of the year.
So
we should actually have the CDA should actually have title to that property over on Walton Avenue. It should be listed here, I would think, as of March 3rd, 2020.
So, if this is the sign of how they're going to operate the CDA, we've got a property. Now, would a bank do this, George?
No, that could be it.
Not if it's a for-profit bank.
Well, and there's vacant property sitting in Racine that's in the name of banks.
Yeah.
So sometimes even they don't come back and take property because it's
Right.
It's not worth.
So is this?
anything.
I mean, I guess if I was say a loan officer or an executive at the bank and I was making a loan out, let's just take Wildroot for a chance. Let's just take that. I was going to make this loan to Wildroot for this building, and you're going to get financing. And how many times they went back and said we're going to have financing? They even went to the county at one point, which got turned down. Now it's almost been exhausted their avenues for financing. What do you do?
What do you mean almost?
Well, okay.
What potential is available
Nothing.
now
Let's
for
say
financing?
it's over. The game's over.
Yeah,
The gig is up.
It certainly seems that way.
So now what do you do with the building? Now the city has lent this money. What I'm trying to get at here is, are they the best people to be making those decisions? Because
No,
truthfully,
that's a
in
very
the
good
beginning,
question. It's a valid question.
I knew that was going to be and I don't want to throw cold water on it, but it was going to be a dud from the get-go. You know, I mean, believe me, I know grocery business, and that one wasn't going to go.
And people that are in business and understand, I mean, the work that goes into making something that occur. I mean, I'm in business. I'm in property management, and the early years, you work your butt off.
Yeah.
You know, there's just not much time for anything other than business, and nobody in government does that. You know, they get there at 8 o'clock, and when that 5 o'clock bell rings, they're gone. And they get their holidays off and their weekends off. It's a different atmosphere, business compared to government. And when you're going to approach business with the mentality of government, it's just doomed for failure.
Yeah. Well, I think we were all pulling for Wildwood. You know, I mean,
I like the idea of Wildwood.
I agree. Nothing wrong with it. But
you know, it hasn't. In spite of all of the assistance that they've gotten and all the encouragement that they've gotten, I don't see anything going on over there on Walton Avenue.
I totally agree.
Have you? I don't know.
Where I'm coming from is, if this is the same group that make it a loan to Wildroot, what are we going to do with Housing Authority? And we're going to take property and we're going to create blighted areas. We're going to redo them. I mean, their track record is absolutely horrible. They've blown a ton of money. I mean, squandered really money. So now we're going to look into this whole new, you know, adventure into housing. I just...
What is the housing stock in Racine? How much vacant housing have we got?
Well, here's one of the areas.
Do we actually need to build more housing? Is there a crying need?
I think the way the city looks at it, and I'm only guessing at this, is that they think of it as the housing stock is poor. We need to upgrade the housing stock. Now, even the for-profits with federal funding have had trouble with that. So you're better off leaving it to the private sector, making it an advantage to the private sector to come in and do housing. Mm-hmm. You know, but I don't see that in this.
Corey Mason has convinced himself by having his little meetings and assemblies that landlords are out there letting tenants live in places with no heat, no electric,
right,
and no running water,
right,
which is flat out. If there's any of it that really exists, it's very, very small. It might be 2 or 3 places because it just doesn't need to exist. There's plenty of reasonable housing out there where you get that type of stuff. And so, but he's convinced it's widespread, and so he's going to have this big search of this great big area of the city. They're going around knocking all these doors, and they're going to try and find out, you know. And when you have that belief, it perfectly, you know, if a certain person really felt that way, and all these poor tenants are out there, man, they're just getting slaughtered by all these landlords, and there's hundreds and hundreds of people that are existing in these untenable conditions. We got vacant houses. Let's go in there and fix it up because the landlords obviously aren't doing it.
Right. Well,
but the government can. We got some money. Let's go fix those. And that's when you go with that mentality. That's what you got. Now you're going to go through all these houses, and they're going to, they're going to knock on doors. He's going to a bit of a surprise when he finds out. I don't know if there's any places like that. I mean,
you have to.
I haven't been accused enough times, and I've seen it as a landlord where a tenant says, "You never come over and make any calls." You know, I have a list of 10,000 all the service repairs we make, and all the service repairs for that person. Yet they'll swear that we don't come and do anything.
Right.
Well, my explanation to my staff is that they're thinking of the past landlord because we answered our service calls. They're still impacted with the guy that wouldn't come over and answer calls. I don't know, whatever. But the point is if somebody said that has no electric, no hot water, no heat in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I know that's. But you have to create that environment so you can come in and save the day. I mean, you have to create.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
And that's what. And I mean, when they show pictures of these old dilapidated buildings, yeah, okay,
that's you can find it outside.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but what I'm going for is on the last thing is we talk about Wildwood. You're looking at lending money, a group of people that when you talk about experience, they're going to lend this money out. It's going to be more like, because mayor sits on every committee, so he's always, whatever the mayor wants, he's just telling them, eyeballing them to do what he thinks they should do. But now they've got they're taking on small micro loans. Okay, so one of my points is Wildroot, they make this loan. I think was a poor loan from the beginning, and they should have really looked at that. But now they're going to do micro
enterprise business loans.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that's the community block grant money, which is federal money that comes in. It's supposed to be for different things, which I suppose is fine.
Well,
But-
it sounds nice. It's for expanding the goal of expanding opportunities for low and moderate income households, creating jobs, providing financing for owner-operated micro enterprise, which is 5 or fewer employees.
Well, look at this one here too. Microenterprise businesses are core to economic competitiveness, neighborhood stability, and community resilience. That's what we've been talking
Yeah,
about.
right.
The only thing is,
Absolutely.
I feel we need a lot more than what is it, 6 to 30 per year that you can do it out of this 100,000. We more like hundreds and hundreds of them springing up throughout the city and get those 25,000 people back. That's my only comment on
Well,
it.
It's something.
nice, but
it's something that bears watching.
it does, and if it gets outside the bounds of political connectedness,
Right, and I think that's
who
what's
do you
gonna
know
happen, right.
to get your 3,000 or three
and truthfully,
15,000.
3,000 or 10,000 or 15,000.
That goes fast in a
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
that's nothing to get rolling on. And I don't know what they plan on. Maybe it's a feel-good program they want to work with. I don't quite understand.
But if they lower the bar a little bit for what you need to go through in order to get a business up and operational.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things, there's so many requirements that they have imposed now.
A guy
on
tries to
small
open
business.
a restaurant. He'll spend 2 or 3 times, not 100,000, but 2 or 3 times the amount,
Yeah.
just trying to
easily.
get through the
Now, what's the
restrictions
requirements?
that the bureaucracy
Yeah,
has,
well,
you
here's
know.
the thing. What's the requirements to get $5,000? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, what are you doing to get $5,000? I mean, most businesses are going to say, I'm not even going to apply for it. It doesn't make any sense. So these are real small. These are buying to me, it's buying votes. That's all it is.
You can't buy a lot of votes for that kind of money.
I don't know. Yeah, I think it's like
But
we're
but if-
gonna a few connected people. They start a business and whatever.
But if you create an impression in, like, we help so many people,
Right.
blah, 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 la,
Right.
da, 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 da.
Well,
Then you can buy votes because somebody that's not familiar with the program will say, "Oh, it sounds like they're doing really good things."
Right.
Yeah, you can sell yourself that you're a
let's
really
keep-
great
Hey,
guy.
and you don't think they got a
them in
press
office.
conference? They got a
Keep them in
press agency right out of City Hall. What the hell? I mean, put it out there. I produce it, and then I bring it, and then I send the press release out, and the Journal Times picks it up and prints it.
Yeah.
It's a perfect.
So let's keep an eye on who actually gets these loans. And if you're thinking about becoming a micro business, I'd say get a hold of these people and find out if they can help you. Absolutely. I'm going to apply for. I hear that there's like $20,000 grants available for blighted properties, and I'm part of the blight.
You're
So
blighted.
I'm
You are
going to check
blighted.
that out. See if I can get that $20K for my house. You guys should check it out too.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, we'll keep an eye on it. You guys keep an eye on us. Every once in a while, we get comments on Facebook where, these guys are full of crap. Nobody has yet really come forward with evidence where anything that have said is incorrect. And we welcome your comments. We welcome your criticism. And if you've got actual evidence that we've said something that's incorrect or that we're full of crap, please step forward and prove it, because we're certainly open to criticism and we're certainly open to getting the truth out. So come back next week and we'll have more for you. Thanks for being here today.